do it. Oh, I do want to apologize. I sound a little off. I have this, all of a sudden today, I got this cold. I keep sneezing. I have a sore throat. A runny nose, and I don't know what's going on, but we're going to do the video irregardless. So stay tuned. Welcome back, friends, to Build a Lot Acres. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the best looking garden tractors of all time. So of course this video is going to be highly subjective, and everyone has their own personal preferences as to what they find attractive and desirable. So what I find attractive and desirable may differ or may not differ from what you do. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think is the best looking garden tractors of all time? So with all that said, let's get into what some of the different considerations that I took into account are. There's really only a few things that I think really make or break a garden tractor. The first and probably the biggest factor or consideration is gonna be, what is the color of the tractor? You could take the sharpest looking truck or muscle car in the world and paint it bright pink, and I'm personally not gonna find it attractive, whereas some other people might. So the color plays a huge factor. For me personally, I've found over the years, my personal preferences are either a two-tone paint scheme, something like a classic Oliver tractor with a white and green, or maybe a Sears Suburban or a Sears Custom with their orange and white, or their blue and white colorings, or even the Case tractors with their red and tan. I think two-tone tractors are really sharp, and I also really enjoy orange tractors. Some may call it red or orange red or reddish orange, whatever you want to call it, but I really like that orange color, and a lot of brands used red, whether it be Case Ingersoll, whether it be Power King, Aaron's, Simplicity, Alice Chalmers. There's a lot of brands, Kubota. There's a lot of brands that used orange for their coloring for their tractors, and I think orange makes a great color for tractors. So coloring has to be the biggest consideration. The second consideration I would say is going to be the shape and size and style of the hood. To me personally, I tend to like more square hoods with simple, clean lines. I also like hoods that kind of have a slight upwards tilt, so the top of the hood kind of slants ever so slightly from the bottom. I don't like huge scoops on hoods, and I don't like huge, funky looking bulges. I don't really like hoods with overly dramatic lines or too many bends. I just like simple, elegant, square or rectangle hoods. Also don't like overly narrow or wide hoods. There's a lot of tractors that have really wide hoods or narrow hoods in comparison to the rest of the tractor. And to my eyes, it just looks out of scale, out of proportion, and it doesn't give off a good look. I would say the next consideration for me is going to be the grille and the headlight area. For me personally, I like either vertical slat grills or grid patterned grills. I don't really like just horizontal grills. And I'm not a huge fan of like the mesh style grills, but some of those are okay. And as far as headlights go, I tend to like the headlights that are built into the grill. That doesn't really matter the shape. I like round, square, rectangle. I do not like full light bars that go the entire width of the hood with some of the more, the newer tractors with the plastic lenses. I don't think those look good. To me, they just look out of place. And I'm also not a huge fan of the bug eye light, whatever you want to call them, lights that are externally mounted on the hood. To me, they don't look attractive. They kind of make it look like a bug, which is kind of the purpose, but they also seem like they'd be more prone to getting hit or broken while you're mowing and doing different tough chores. So I like the headlights that are built into the grill, and I like simple, clean lines on my grills. So the last real consideration for me would probably be the decals and the logos that are on the tractor. I like a nice logo that's contrasting in color to the rest of the machine. It kind of makes it pop and stand out. I really like the 80s style pinstriping that a lot of brands used, such as Aaron's and Ingersoll. Both use kind of the black and yellow pinstriping on their orange machines. And I just think it looks really sharp. I know Bolens has the two-tone pinstriping on some of their machines, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So the decals and the logos can really make a big difference. As far as logos, I really like classic logos that really stand out, such as the Old Abe Eagle from Case. It's the little, silver colored eagle at the front of the machine on the hood. It's a little hood ornament. It looks really sharp. I also like the Bolens Husky dogs and the Bolens Husky man with the overalls. I just think those kind of decals and ornaments and emblems really stick out and make the machine memorable to those who use them. So with all that said, now that we got the considerations out of the way, let's get into my list of my top 5 best looking garden tractors of all time. First up is going to be the Sears SS series, specifically the SS 12, 14, and 15. Those tractors were made from about 1967 until 1972. And to me, they just have a really classic look. They have the two-tone color scheme. They have the blue or white, or as the Sears guys would say, Jade Mist and Arctic White. A two-tone color scheme really pops. They also have a slanting upwards grill. So the top of the grill kind of slants upwards away from the machine, and it really gives it that tough, no-nonsense, square jaw look that I find pretty desirable. It has a nice, clean line, vertical slat grill. It has the round headlights. And I just think they're a really sharp, classic-looking garden tractor from yesteryear. I think many a young boy were probably looking through these Sears catalogs and dreaming of one day owning their own Sears SS. So next up, I'm going to talk about the Jacobsen Chiefs and Super Chiefs. I actually want to do a video on these tractors in the future, but these tractors were made from about 1964 until 1971, and they actually look very similar in looks to the Sears SSs that we just talked about. They again have a two-tone color scheme, this time orange and white. They have the same slanted grill as the Sears, and they just look like a real nice heavy-duty garden tractor. And I also really like the wider seat, the bench style seat that the Jacobsens had. Jacobsen actually made tractors for a lot of other brands. One of them we're going to be getting into in just a minute. So the Chiefs and Super Chiefs of Jacobsen have to be the second tractor on this best looking list. So the next up on the list is going to be the Bolens HT23, which is one of their large frame tractors. The large frame tractor started in 1967 with the 1250 model, and the HT23 was their biggest, last of their large frames. It had a big 23 horsepower Kohler, and the reason I like the HT23 as far as looks the most amongst the large frames is probably because of the two-tone paint scheme. It has a white hood that has that classic black and green Bolens with the Bolens logo on the hood, that big, wide, nice, prominent pinstripe. It really makes it stand out, as well as it has, again, a classic square hood with a slightly angled upward slanted grill. And the large tires all the way around really make the HT23 Bolens a good-looking brute. So sticking with green and white, we got to talk about what many would consider probably the sharpest looking garden tractor of all time, and that's going to be the Oliver tractors, which are made by Jacobsen. There are only 4 models of the Oliver tractors, and they were only made for 2 years, in 1972 and 1973. They had a nice green and white paint job, and they really stand out nicely. I think one of the biggest things that they have is the classic white grill, which is quite fancy compared to some of the other tractors on the list. And they have a little bit of a jetted top end that covers the headlights nicely. It gives it that extra line, a shadow line you might call it, protects the headlights, and it really gives it a classic tractor look. They have a real nice seamless transition all the way from the fenders to the footrest to the side panels to the hood. It just all flows really nice. They obviously took a lot of time designing the looks of these tractors. They really hit a home run. These Oliver tractors are really collectible and rare, and they fetch a real pretty penny if you can find one. So that's going to be the 4th tractor on our best looking list, is going to be the Oliver tractors, built by Jacobsen. So the last tractors that we're going to talk about are going to be the metal hood Power Kings, specifically the 16 and 24 series. That designates the size of the rear rim. So the 16 series have a 16-inch rim, 24 series have a 24-inch rim. So big tires for a garden tractor. And these metal hood Power Kings were made from about 1977 up until 1983. After that, they would transition into using fiberglass hoods, and they lost that classic look. But they have very clean lines. They have an ever so slightly rounded hood. They again have a little bit of a jut over the headlights, which are round, and they really have a classic look and simple lines. I think the big tires really give it a no-nonsense farm tractor look, and I really like the orange-red paint jobs they have. the big Power King letters. They just look really sharp. And that's going to be the last tractor on our list, is the Power King 16 to 24 Metal Hood Kings. So of course there's a lot of other tractors that we could have talked about. There's a lot of great looking garden tractors. There's also a lot of ugly looking garden tractors, if we're going to be honest. So I'm considering doing a ugliest or worst looking garden tractor list, possibly next week. Let me know in the comments if you think that would make a good video or not. I already have some candidates in my mind that you might be thinking as well. But I'd also love to know, what do you consider the best looking garden tractors of all time? It could be a brand, it could be a specific model, or any of the in-between. I'm really curious to know your thoughts. Please leave it in the comments. Maybe we'll get some good discussions going amongst other viewers. And hope you enjoyed today's video. See you next time.